Today, we're diving into the incredible story of how one single monk, struggling with his own faith, managed to shatter 1,000 years of religious unity in Europe. This is the story of the man who broke Christendom. So, when you hear the phrase Protestant Reformation, what do you picture? Probably some big religious war, or maybe just a protest against the Pope, right? Well, the truth is, the real story is so much more personal and a lot more complicated. Yeah, that's right. One of the biggest turning points in all of Western history didn't start with a battle plan or some grand political manifesto. Nope, it all started with the deep, internal spiritual turmoil of just one man. To really get what happened, we kind of have to reset how we think about this whole movement. Because honestly, even the name Protestant Reformation can be a little misleading. A lot of people have this idea that the reformers just wanted to tear down Catholicism, but that's not really the story. In reality, they saw themselves as champions of a positive message. They were trying to get back to what they believed were the true, authentic roots of Christianity. And the word reformation itself kind of gives us a clue. It has this cool double meaning. On one hand, it means to make over, like restoring something to its original, pure form. On the other, it means to make better, to improve it. The reformers were trying to do both. So let's meet the man at the center of the storm, Martin Luther. And you've got to understand, this guy wasn't some revolutionary looking for a fight. Not at all. He was a deeply religious man who was just completely consumed by a crisis of his own faith. Luther came from a pretty modest background. His father was a German miner. He was well educated in the new humanist thinking of the day. And yeah, like a lot of people, he saw a need for reform in the church. But the real key to understanding Luther, the thing that drove everything, was his personality. He was a deeply sensitive guy, and he was absolutely plagued by doubt. It's kind of wild to think that this whole world-changing event really boils down to this one personal struggle. Luther was just tormented by the idea that nothing he could do, no prayer, no good deed, would ever be enough to make him worthy of salvation. He felt broken, and it was driving him to despair. So you have this guy's private, internal crisis, and it's about to become very, very public, all thanks to a popular church practice that basically poked him right in his deepest insecurity. And that practice was the sale of indulgences. The idea was this: after you die, your soul goes to a place called purgatory, kind of a spiritual holding tank, to be purified before entering heaven. An indulgence, which you could get through certain good works, or crucially, through a donation, could shorten that time in purgatory for you or a loved one. And this had become a huge business. I mean, it was completely commercialized. Get this, there's a famous butter tower at a cathedral in France. Why is it called that? Because it was paid for by people buying indulgences that let them eat butter during Lent, which was supposed to be a time of fasting. You could literally pay to get out of fasting. This just drove Luther crazy for two big reasons. Theologically, it made it seem like you could earn your salvation, that you could buy your way into God's favor. He rejected that completely. And on a patriotic level, he was a German who was just sick of seeing German money flowing down to a Rome that he felt was corrupt. So, in October of 1517, he famously posted his 95 Theses on the church door. Now, we imagine this as this huge, defiant act, but really it was just the standard way a professor back then would call for an academic debate. He wasn't declaring war, he was inviting a discussion. But that scholarly discussion he was hoping for? It blew up. It spiraled out of his control so fast, escalating from a simple debate into an act of open defiance against the highest powers in Europe. And the timeline was incredibly short. Just 2 years after his theses, in 1519, he's in a debate where he ends up denying the authority of the Pope. By 1520, he's publishing these radical essays. And by 1521, the hammer falls. The Pope excommunicates him. He's officially kicked out. He's then summoned before the Holy Roman Emperor himself, the most powerful political figure in Europe, and ordered to take it all back. And that's when he delivers these famous words. It was the ultimate statement of individual conscience against the system. The break was now complete. So what was this new theology that he had created? Well, at its very heart were three foundational ideas, often known as the three alones. Just three simple, but utterly revolutionary principles that would go on to redefine the relationship between people and God for millions. First up, sola fide, faith alone. Salvation is a free gift from God that you get through faith, not something you earn with good works. Second, sola gratia, grace alone. Basically, God's grace is the only reason anyone is saved. And finally, sola scriptura, scripture alone. This was a huge one. It meant the Bible, and only the Bible, is the source of religious authority, not popes, not councils.
Now, Luther wasn't the first person to challenge the church. Many had tried before, and let's just say it usually didn't end well for them. So why did he succeed? Well, it was a perfect storm of circumstances. What made this one monk from a small German town so different from all the reformers who came before him?
It was a whole mix of things hitting at just the right time. You had the brand new printing press, which spread his ideas like wildfire. He had a political protection from a powerful German prince, which was absolutely crucial. His message had a real patriotic appeal for Germans. But beyond all that, he offered a complete, compelling alternative vision for Christianity. And the guy was an incredible writer who could connect with everyday people. And so, because of one monk's personal crisis, a new technology, and some savvy politics, Christendom, an idea that had held Europe together for a millennium, was broken. Europe was still Christian, but for the very first time, there were now two versions. And the question that hung over the entire continent was, what comes next?